Hi, I'm Amber from Amber's Craft Week blog, and welcome back to the Hay Day Challenge, where we go through various pages of the book Hay Day and do little activities relating to them. So, March is apparently National Frozen Food Month, and to honor this, in the book Hay Day, they came up with a bunch of different tater tot recipes. So they have sloppy tots, which are like sloppy joes with some tater tots thrown in, tot stir fry, which is a stir fry with tater tots thrown in, and then tot pudding, which is a dessert with tater tots. So we're going to be trying a variant on the sloppy tots idea. We're going to start by having Brian give us a sloppy joe recipe. So even if you don't want to try sloppy tots, you'll have a nice vegetarian sloppy joe recipe on hand. And then to make it into sloppy tots, we're just going to lay down some tater tots on our buns and pour sloppy joe stuff on top of it. So let's get started.
Today we're going to make sloppy joes. This is a really old recipe I have. A modified one. The original one was from All Recipes, but I think since then I modified it pretty heavily. So this recipe actually calls for 2 cups of traditional sauce. I'm just going to pour on this because this is close to 3 cups. It's probably a little under 3 cups. So, alright, so when I left you, through the magic of editing, we just got done pouring this sauce in here. I needed to bang around and find a bunch of stuff to put in this sauce. So what I've done since then is just collect this stuff here, and I've also taken a can of kidney beans, black beans rather, and I've drained it. This recipe, modified recipe that we have, calls for a can of kidney beans, but black beans should be just fine as well. So what we're going to do first is we're going to add some baking soda to this mix. The reason why we're adding baking soda is Amber has some troubles with acid, and so we're neutralizing the acid.
Yeah, so this step is not necessary, it's optional, but if you do have trouble with the acid in sauces, then you can add a little baking soda to neutralize it.
So we're neutralizing the acid in this tomato sauce. This is just some standard marinara sauce. And what we're going to do is we're going to stir it in and mix it thoroughly. Oh, I added 3/4 teaspoons. 1 for each cup. And that amount may vary depending on the acidity of your tomato sauce, so results may vary. You might want to buy some pH strips if you do have a problem with acid in your food, and take a sample of your tomato sauce, and then of course don't put the test strips straight into your tomato sauce, and the reason for that is you probably don't want to contaminate your tomato sauce with whatever chemicals are on that test strip. So add your baking soda, then set aside a little portion of it after it's been neutralized, and then see if you actually have neutralized it according to your pH test strip. If you have, then you don't need to add any more baking soda. If it isn't neutralized, then you can continue to add baking soda in small quantities until you found that it is neutralized. We know the acid quantity in this particular brand of tomato sauce, so we don't actually need to go back and calculate how much baking soda we need to add. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the black beans. This is just a can of black beans. And then I'm going to add 2 cups of this veggie meat. And again, this is a veggie-based recipe, a vegetarian-based recipe. Amber, as you know, is a vegetarian, or maybe you don't know that. The veggie crumble that we are using is the Morningstar Farms version. They have changed this since we originally devised this recipe, and we haven't actually made sloppy joes since they've revised this recipe, so we're going to have to see how this is. add a little extra veggie meat in for our particular mix because, again, I'm adding more sauce than what the recipe calls for. Now, normally for something like a Sloppy Joe recipe, you want to use fresh onions and fresh garlic. We don't have any fresh onions or garlic at the moment, so we're just going to be using garlic powder and onion powder. We also will be adding cumin, coriander, and parsley. And we'll also be adding soy sauce. Why don't we start off with the soy sauce? We're going to add 1 tablespoon of soy sauce to this mix. The soy sauce adds a nice color to the mix. It also makes the mix salty, so it adds a nice salt flavor to it. And if you like soy sauce, then use soy sauce. We're using it as a salt substitute in this case. Next, I'm going to I'll add half a teaspoon of oregano. Now, if you're using spaghetti sauce, then you probably already have oregano in there, so it depends on your flavors and your preferences. Oregano is fine here. Oregano has a little bit of a sweeter flavor, so when you add oregano to your sauce, just be sure that you want to have a kind of a sweeter herb spice flavor to it. Next, I'm going to add parsley. Parsley is a great spice. The reason why is it helps to kind of neutralize flavors like onions and garlic a little bit. So it also helps to counteract any kind of bad breath that you might acquire from these. In this case, I'm probably just going to add a teaspoon. I might add more later. Next, I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of coriander. Normally, I just guess the amounts of these, but I'm measuring them out for your benefit. I'm also going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin. The cumin adds a nice kind of herby flavor to it, an earthy flavor. Cumin is often used in things like taco seasonings and anything where you kind of have a Mexican almost flavor to it, so it's a good spice if you like that kind of flavor. Then I'm going to add a teaspoon of garlic powder and onion powder. If you're using powdered garlic and onion, then you're probably going to, it's a bit more of a concentrated flavor. You're going to it's not going to be quite as potent as the regular garlic and onions, but powdered makes a really nice substitute. And I also tend to taste these mixtures liberally when I am making them. That way I can actually know how close to the flavor profile I'm looking for. Oftentimes when you're doing cooking, you just want to make sure that the flavors work together. I know that these flavors work together. I use these spices a lot, and so I already have a pretty good idea about what to expect from them. What I'm checking for here is to see if they're in the correct quantities, and once I know if they're in the correct quantities, the dish is going to be essentially done. Yeah, that's actually right about perfect. It might be a little on the salty side, but it's not too salty. If you do end up with something that's on the salty side, you can always add more things, like more sauce. You can always, you know why it's on the salty side? Because of the baking soda that we added. Normally we wouldn't cook this with baking soda, but in this case we actually added baking soda, and the baking soda adds sodium. So this is, again, if you are adding baking soda to your dishes to neutralize acid, you should watch out for the added sodium. So if you do have sodium problems, make sure to keep that in mind before adding baking soda. And that is our Sloppy Joe recipe. Hopefully this was helpful and informative. Hopefully you enjoyed this.
Alright, so now I have to make mine into Sloppy Tots. So I'm just going to take some of these tater tots and layer them on the bottom of my bun. And we'll do 6, should be more than plenty. And then we're going to pour some Sloppy Joe stuff over top of them.
Tell me when.
That's probably good. And so we'll close it up. And then we can see how these Sloppy Tots are. And now for the moment of truth. Let's see if I can even pick this up. Alright, this is going to be a two-hand job apparently. It's really not bad. Ew. Very messy, but the Sloppy Joe seasonings taste really good. I didn't get a ton of potato in there, but the potato doesn't detract, so I think it's a really good Sloppy Joe recipe. And if you want to throw tater tots in there, I think it works well as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd love it if you gave it a like. If you want to see more videos in the Heyday series, then you may want to subscribe. We have a few more recipes, I think 2 so far. So if you like recipes, there's a few over there. If you like crafts, you can check out my craft blog, amberscraftweek.blogspot.com. If you do try these Sloppy Tots, let me know what you think of them. I think it's a pretty good recipe, but I'd be very curious to see what you think. Thanks for watching and have a great day.